Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about power and awareness. What is the relationship between these two things? Eckhart Tolle wrote the book, The Power of Now, and he is arguably the biggest modern orator, lecturer on the topic of consciousness. Considering this dynamic between what power means, how power dynamics take place between individuals and within yourself, and how knowing how to get into the seat of self, as Michael Singer would call it, or getting into the awareness, consciousness, as Eckhart Tolle would call it, how that is so crucial in becoming a more sovereign, empowered, and free individual. Quick edit. I really wanted to add this because I realized that there's a huge benefit to practicing and living in the awareness consciousness that I totally forgot to include, but it's so important. And this is that in order to stop operating the way that we were really taught to, which is this strategy, tit for tat, of like power dynamics, it does take a certain humility. There's an ego death involved because when you're stepping into the awareness consciousness, your ego is fighting it the whole time through and trying to convince you not to do that, to step in, to get involved, to get offended, or to tell yourself a story so that you feel better. But you, as the awareness conscious, you just watch this. Now, if I wasn't clear, or if you're not too sure what I mean by the awareness consciousness, nothing stops. You're still seeing and hearing your brain do what the brain does, which is like making chaos and getting offended or whatever. You're watching that happen. You're not stopping it. You're not you're not doing anything about it. You're just watching it. And most importantly is that you're not acting from that place just because your mind is telling you to. And as a result, when you do take action, there's this calmness. You're not acting out of impulsivity or bravado or posturing. And that is authenticity. That is what gives you a natural confidence. It's like confidence is stemming paradoxically and ironically from your humility and your ability to surrender to the awareness consciousness and let that take the seat of action, which is magnetic, it's charming, and it's pleasant. Before continuing on, I do want to mention that I'm beginning a monthly sharing circle, the Journey Circle, to gather like-minded awareness practitioners who are also looking to meet life more fully, who are looking to be more available to life through being more self-trusting, more discerning, and practicing conscious awareness. So if this is something that you're interested in, I am gathering right now just a mailing list. I'm building out the program currently, but I have the mailing list open now. And so that's going to be on my website. I'll have the link down below at journeywithpaloma.com, a free space once a month where we can actually practice and see what does it look like to be the spiritual seeker in modern day. When you're not a renunciate, when you're not in the cave, what does that look like for us? So to illustrate just how crucial it is to know how to become and step into awareness conscious when you need to, ideally, eventually you get to the place where you live from that space all the time, but you build up practices to grow in the capacity to do so. Why? Why does that matter? Okay, so as is, when you're going about in the world, if you're completely unaware, then without a doubt, because of our conditioning and just life, we get triggered. And when we get triggered is a good example of when there is a power shift. Let's just say that you get offended by someone and you then have the option to, as we know, retaliate, to defend yourself, or go inward and criticize them, but you don't say anything. You could also reformulate the way that you're looking at the situation, and you can tell yourself a story that makes you feel better about what happened. So someone cuts you off in traffic, for example, and you think, oh, they look like they're older, they probably can't see, it's fine. So these are all different ways that we choose to cope. Why? Because there has been an action taken towards you that feels like it's taking your personal egoic power. And so we want to find a way to balance that out within us, to rectify that. If you've ever read or heard of the book, The 48 Laws of Power, this is the plane that it's teaching you how to to work in. It's teaching you how to, as an ego, take your power back from other egos coming to take your power in some way, shape, or form. And remember, sometimes these power dynamics can just be projected. It can be our own internal narrative and the viewing what's going on, as opposed to a true attack. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it is somebody who is upset and wanting to feel powerful by challenging you. So what the power of now teaches, and what you learn when you practice getting into the seat of self and conscious awareness, is that there is a higher power, and there is a place that you can sit and interact with life from, where no power has shifted at all. You are completely whole, and nobody has taken anything from you. You haven't taken anything. You've never lost anything to begin with. This is a place of infinitude and completeness and wholeness. And when you are living your life inhabited with this place, there's no fear of losing power. You operate from a place of higher personal power. So you're meeting life, and it looks like you're very decisive and self-assured. You're very joyful when you live from this place, because you're not so preoccupied. Because the alternative is, if that you're meeting life with no thought about where you are in awareness, then a lot of our energy goes towards preserving, towards trying to shift power dynamics, and that takes a lot out of us. And all of a sudden you find that when you free up that energy that you would have used otherwise in petty tit for tat dynamics, when you free all of that up, what it leaves you with is a lot more energy to really savor your experiences, to appreciate, to notice, and to open yourself. Because you're not afraid. You're not afraid that anything is here to take your power. For me, the way that it showed up, I mean, it shows up every single day, but to give a few examples, I've had some dreams recently where there were two women in the dreams who were like in my face wanting to argue about something. There was like an accusation that I did something, and initially I felt like I needed to say something. No, you're mistake. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't. But then all of a sudden I remembered my power and my awareness. There was a total shift in me where I wasn't being pulled into, and it was like I remembered, oh yeah, I don't have to deal with you. It's like, oh right, I don't have to talk to you. And then the dream, the lady just vanished, her and her little dog vanished. What you find is the ego wants to rebel against that, because they think, oh, well, then people are just going to walk on you. You're going to become passive, whatever, fears would come up. But actually, you find that your energy speaks for you. And when there's no hierarchy here, you're not trying to triumph over something. You're just inhabited. And when you're just inhabited, it's felt. And when it's felt that way, there's just nobody wants to go try you, because there's not they are not operating from that place, so they will lose power. And so when someone knows that they're just going to lose power, they're not even going to go there. So little by little, I'm not going to claim that I understand exactly how God organized the world. And what I'm experiencing, less and less do you find yourself in these dynamics anyway, just because you're just not attracting them anymore, because you're not sitting from there anymore, and you're not looking for it. And you kind of tend to attract what we're looking for. It's like what you pay attention to, you see more of. And because you're not paying attention to, even on a subtle level, this egoic power battle, then you're able to experience where that didn't come up once, where in fact you're finding that everyone is like helpful and sweet and kind and amazing. So the other thing that I'd like us to look at and consider is that the naysayer, or that like bickering lady in my dream, look at it as your own way that your mind does that to yourself too. And that's the practice. That's the returning that power to yourself every time you recognize that your own mind is causing you trouble, realizing that you don't have to listen to it, realizing like, I hear you, I don't have to listen to you, even to yourself, even to what your mind is telling you. And then you absorb that power, it comes back to you. Anytime that you're negotiating with yourself is another way that you're giving power away. So that's another thing to be aware of, is you're not negotiating. You're not, just the same way that I'm not negotiating with the lady that was in my face in my dream. I'm also not negotiating with myself. I'm also not negotiating with my own inner dog lady, which I do have. So anytime that I hear myself trying to justify something or self-negotiate, these are all good indicators that I've got to step back into awareness and then act. Transcending into awareness, it doesn't mean that you won't take action. It doesn't mean that you won't say something. It just means that now your full power, energy, and clarity is coming from just whatever is at hand, not your personal egoic wound. And so you might find that you are more compassionate, or you're more humble, more curious, because it's not a personal attack anymore. You as a person, the way that you respond might be different than what you would have said. Oh, if I was in the situation even a year ago, I would have responded very differently. To my understanding, this is what it means: thy will be done. Thy will be done, meaning God's will, meaning consciousness is at the seat, not the egoic, frail, easily triggered, and insulted self. Remembering always that the words that are exchanged are of secondary importance to the level of consciousness. That is always of primary importance. Words are just pointers, they're just substituting in for an energy, and they don't matter as much. They'll flow and they'll come out just as they need to when you first make sure that you're operating from consciousness. Now, this takes practice. That is why we meditate. That's why we meditate, because we will get lost in the drama of life and we'll forget that we don't have to deal with, these things, or I don't have to give my power away to this. I don't have to invest my energy in here. I don't have to say yes. We'll forget. Everything seems very convincing. Like in my dream, that lady with the dog, it felt very convincing that it was my responsibility to figure out what was wrong with her. And so we'll be easily pulled into the drama unless we've built up, a conscious awareness practice. And that is where meditation comes in. The idea is that you do these techniques to, first of all, become familiar and acquainted with that dimension of wholeness, spaciousness, that place where nothing has ever been lost to begin with. Not just that space, but practicing feeling into the awareness of that space. A quick little exercise of what I'm talking about is someone asks you, how did you sleep? But somehow we know. How do you know that you were asleep? Who is it that knows? That's the seat of awareness. That is the seat of self. And you keep practicing going back there, back there, back there, over and over again, which takes focus and concentration, because you're closing out all of the distractions that keep telling you, listen to me, listen to me. And that is what meditation does. And so all of these techniques, you're developing your capacity to focus on just one thing at a time. That way you have stronger willpower and ability to focus and sharpen into focus, into awareness. Otherwise, it's so convincing. And the ultimate power move, if there's a power move, would just be to no longer believe in the play, in the drama of it all. That's the ultimate power move. That's the transcendence. And it's actually really effortless when you get there. It's actually almost too easy. And then when you see the way that your environment shifts as a response, it's like, wow, it didn't have to be this whole big thing. The moment came, passed, I let it pass, and now I'm doing something else. It's pretty miraculous almost. It's a whole different way of just being in the world that is freeing you up to just experience more sweetness, more joy, and not heart and dwell and stay in the things that don't make you feel good. It's the way that I measure spiritual progress is not, how long I'm able to sit in meditation or what kind of extraordinary phenomena comes up, although that's cool. The biggest measure of spiritual progress is just, again, how are you day to day? How are you when challenges arise? Can you stay present? Are you generally aware of your inner self-sabotage? Do you know how to self-parent and self-soothe? And the things that would make your life feel expansive and free and light, are you able to do those things? It's choosing to nurture and cultivate the state that feels the best. You can do this by just shifting your internal narrative, but the problem with that is that it's still fickle. Its triggers will still come up, and then that will be challenged, and then you can try to in your mind position yourself to always be right, and it will always be challenged. So that is why I personally feel that the transcendental approach is the most potent, powerful, because you're just not playing anymore. I'm just not playing, as opposed to if you set yourself up to have the most impressive life and 3 PhDs and best everything. That's one way, but it's still subject to deterioration because it's material and it's fleeting and it is still playing in the same field. Arguing with someone, it might feel like you're gaining the upper hand, or like it might feel that you're getting your power back, but you're not. You're just as much giving up your power just by legitimizing. But if you don't negotiate, if you don't even go there, that is the transcendental approach. When you practice this seat of self, very advanced practice, is that you stop looking at those external from you as different from you anyway. So there's no power lost once again, because it's like my left hand doesn't lose power to my right hand. It's all one body. So that consciousness, that way of viewing life, starts to emerge more and more and more. If you wanted to, if you're looking for it, if you're practicing it. And again, it's like, I want you to be well because you're a part of me. And it just inspires goodwill and compassion, to whoever you're encountering, because you're not looking like you're against the world. You're on the same team, with humanity. A lot of times you find that situations don't even need any action. Somebody says a rude comment to you at the grocery store, for example, and you get into the awareness space and you realize, like, oh, I could just walk away. And sometimes that seems obvious in these circumstances that I'm giving you, but if it's like your coworker or a family member, sometimes we feel like you have to say something. But you'll know more and more by getting into the most present state that you can, when to say something, when to let it go. And a lot of the times you just let it go because you've already moved on and you're so full of whatever goodness has come your way that you couldn't be bothered to go back there. And then the next, it's an incredible way of living. I'm only even just at the beginning of it. I cannot wait. I'm like, I feel already just light because I understand this concept, and I'm still practicing so I can get there even quicker and hopefully one day just live from the seat of self. And because this is something I'm super passionate about and something that I'm easily dedicating the rest of my life to, that's why I want to do a sharing circle and a practice circle for anybody else who's interested in also doing awareness practices. Looking at once a month right now to do a sharing and practice, and continue to grow, continue to slip into ease and joy, and fully inhabit our lives, and we can do it together. Have a beautiful day, you powerful, powerful being.